I'm here today with Jerry Solie. Jerry's a longtime member of the Evergreen Fly Club. He joined the first year the club was formed, way back in 1955. So we're going to visit about the club and his memories of it, and certainly about fishing, and then some about life and faith and prayer in the next life. So Jerry, you made some notes about things you wanted to talk about. Tell me about your memories of the club and the guys that started it, and starting in the back of the funeral home and all that.
Well, the guys that started the club were mainly my dad, Lloyd McChesney, Ted Knobloch. Those three had been meeting, at the end of the day. Lloyd McChesney and Ted Knobloch would come down to the funeral home, and we had a room down below, and they'd park around back, and they'd maybe have a couple and have a little whiskey and a smoke and tell stories. And then Al Knutson would join sometimes, and Ernie Larson, Jerry Larson's dad, and then Lou Bell. And there was one other founding father was Bill Biggs, and he didn't stay around very long. I think that he wanted the club to sponsor and have a Boy Scout troop, and we were just getting started with the club, and we just didn't feel like it was time to do that yet. So he kind of dropped out, and anyway, this was in 1953 and 4. The guys were coming to the funeral home and getting together, and then
80 years ago.
Huh?
80 years ago.
80 years ago, yeah.
80 years ago. Wow, Jerry.
Yeah. And then in 1955, Lou Bell did whatever paperwork it took to make us an official club. We were the second fly fishing club in Washington. Washington Fly Fishing Club being the first, and there were 3 or 4 guys that were really helpful in the Evergreen Fly Fishing Club formation. Real nice guys. And then later on, the Totem Club up in Canada, our club helped those guys form their club. And but anyway, it was really fun for me. I was.
How old were you when you joined? You were 18, weren't you?
Well, I think I was probably 18. My buddy Freddie Howard and I joined together, and we were the only 2 kids, and we didn't have a rule about it. You had to be 21 yet. But so we were members then, and Freddie and I are the only original ones left. So.
How old are you, Jerry?
I'm 86 now.
When was he 87?
Oh, that's a long way off.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm a wore out 86, but I did most of it having fun, and one of the biggest parts of my life, the fun part, was all of the fishing trips that I went on, and the camaraderie I had with the guys. But some were special, and Lloyd McChesney was special to me. He was like having another dad, and he had a daughter my age, and we were together a lot. And even to this day, she's called me a while back, and she says, I think it'd be nice if you call me once in a while. And this has been going on for 80 years.
Wow.
So, yeah, anyway, but I never was attracted to this gal. And then, so Lloyd McChesney took me fishing on the weekends. my dad worked every Saturday. We had funerals on Saturday, and Lloyd treated me like a son. In fact, Lloyd gave me a 41 Plymouth.
Wow.
And then the other one I want to talk about is Ted Knobloch.
Excuse me, just for the conversation. When you say the funeral home, you're talking about Solie Funeral Home on Colby.
The Solie Funeral Home on Colby.
Yep.
This is her letterhead that was done. Dub Price did this. Evergreen Fly Fishing Club, 3301 Colby. And I have some other things that was, we have deals that went into the books that we had. We had books at the time. And we didn't have a historian. We didn't have anybody like Jack Hutchinson, but I can't remember who had the books, but anyway, some of those, I still got the deal in them that says 3301 Colby. So, yeah, anyway.
And I interrupted you, excuse me. You started to talk about somebody else that you really appreciated.
Oh, Ted Knobloch was my dad was the first president, Ted was the second president, Lloyd McChesney was the third president. And Ted Knobloch, in those early days, he would take me, and he had a son that was my age. And one weekend I couldn't go, so another kid was with Ted Knobloch. The boy was named Jay, and they were steelhead fishing in the winter up by Savannah. And as you go into Savannah, there's the railroad bridge, and there's a little slough there. And Jay Knobloch and the other kid that was with him got out on the ice while Ted was steelhead fishing, and they went through the ice, and Jay died.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that story.
Ted lost his only child, and you know, and a friend of mine too at the same time. And my dad went up there and retrieved him, and so I always felt all of those years when Lloyd McChesney and Ted would take me, it was Ted would take me because he lost his son, and Lloyd didn't have anybody to fish with except me. So, and then it worked out good for me. And I did a lot of fishing in those days. I just showed Jim a couple of pictures. I was fishing Pigeon Creek in 1946, and I was fishing on Mission Beach off the docks in 1946. I had a telescope rod, and I didn't have to do any casting or anything. I just stick it out as long as I wanted to go on the creek, so it worked out pretty good for me. And but I did. One thing I wrote down here is that, because I forget about things, that my first summer run I caught when I was probably only, God, I don't think I was any more than 13 years old. And it was a scout trip, and we were up. I could reveal it to you now, because I don't know if there's any summer run steelhead left there, but it was in Camp Creek. It was a tributary to the White Chuck River. And anyway, that was the first summer run. And then of course, my dad was fishing all the time, and I caught my first winter steelhead when I was probably 13 or 14 years old. My dad had a boat that he kept in the river right at the where the Skykomish and Snoqualmie come together. So here I fished. I fished Pigeon Creek a lot. I actually fished where Everett Memorial Stadium is now. There's a creek. It runs down through a pipe underneath the stadium. Yeah.
Wow. When was that? How long ago was that?
I was I was in grade school then. In fact, they were. I was down there when they were burning the stumps and everything to build the stadium. They had to get rid of all the trees, and I fell down in a where it burnt under the ground, and I burned the heck out of my foot. I had to ride my bicycle home, and it was burned pretty bad. I had to go on crutches that summer. But that was God in 1945 or 6, something like that. I fished off of Pier 1 here in Everett. Ride my bicycle down there pretty much every day. And and then when I got to be 16, I had a 41 Plymouth. I had a 41 Plymouth that Lloyd McChesney gave me. And my fishing buddy, Freddie Howard, we would go every weekend to different lakes and fish. And I had the book that had all of the lakes in it in the county, and we just started checking everything off. Greatest fishing partner in the world. And then the other thing I want to mention is I fly fished from the beginning, and my dad and Lloyd and Ted, they all fly fished. Except they weren't, the only really hardcore one that would fly fish all winter long was Al Knudsen. He was the only one. And then I want to add too that Al Knudsen was my mentor. I would go down and visit with him. He worked down at Pacific Grinding Wheel place, had a little apartment down there, and I would grow up. And Al taught me how to tie flies, and he taught me how to tie the Al Knudsen yellow spider. So, and Al Knudsen told me how to fish steelhead, and he told me I could just go right up to his place on the river, and go in there and park anytime I wanted to.
On the North Fork.
Or on the North Fork.
Fork is still, yeah.
And I did. And in fact, when I went up there, doing what Al told me to do, and everything, I'll be darned if I didn't hook a fish the first time I went up there. And it was just like hooking the bumper of a car going by. It was the darndest thing I ever experienced in my life. It was evidently, I don't know how big, I didn't land it.
Oh?
Yeah, scared the heck out of me. So, anyway, we had a lot of things that we did in the club. I just wrote down a few of them. The Klamath Cup, we would get together with the Oregon group, and that was from 1966 till about 1980. And then I went to all of the fish outs we had on the Klamath, and then on the first regional Federation of Fly Fishing meeting that there ever was, we were the host of it. That was at Ocean Shores in 1969, and that was quite an event. That was at Ocean Shores, and Dick Padovan was president at the time. And then we had international fish out up at Peter Hope, and we had that. That was in 1970, and that actually got to be such a big deal up there. I think we kind of quit doing it. But the other thing we did, I remember the fly tying classes. Walt Price Sr. started that, and that was at Everett Junior College, and I was pretty early in the 50s. The river cleanup was something that we started, I think, in about 1980. our signs that we put up on the river. We got metal ones now. I forget when we started that, but I remember the Federation of Fly Fishermen, the very first meeting they ever had down in Oregon. Dick Padovan and I went down there, and we slept in the back of his Mercury station wagon, and that was quite a event too. But then our Christmas parties, I remember when we started that because I was president the year we had our first Christmas party, and that was 1971.
Yeah, I think 71.
Yeah, and we had it at the old B&M upstairs at the
In Marysville?
in B&M cafeteria at or no, Alpine cafeteria. Yeah, the Alpine was at the B&M shopping center.
Huh.
We used to have our meetings. We had our meetings there for a while. We started out at the Elks Club, and we've been a lot of different places. We've been down to the God, I can't remember.
Flying Pig.
Yeah, Flying Pig went down there for a while.
Scuttlebutts.
Scuttlebutts. Philbeck's. We went to Philbeck's.
Yes, I remember that. Legion Park. We went there for several years.
Yeah, and anyway, we tried them all, and I guess I get kind of sentimental when I think about all of the guys in the club, because I loved them all, and they were all such great guys, and it's you know, one thing I feel real bad about, I got to know Mike Benbow here just before, got to know him real well, and then he had a stroke, and there's been a lot of, been a little bit of sadness at times in the club, but all in all, the Fly Fishing Club has been a really, really big thing for me. I don't have all of the close friends that I did when I was younger because there's nobody left. And I kind of feel bad about that. And I'm thankful for all of the club outings that I got to go to, and I'm just thankful for all of the fish that I used to catch. Steelhead fishing has changed an awful lot. I think I should add too. My favorite place to fish was Canyon Creek, and I loved Canyon Creek, summer run and steelhead. Caught a lot of summer runs in Canyon Creek, and usually had it to myself. I did a lot of exploring for summer run steelhead, and some of these places I mentioned, the only one that knew anything I was even talking about was Kurt Kramer, but I caught summer runs in Camp Creek. I caught summer runs in Finney Creek, tributary of the Skagit, and a lot of different places that people didn't know there were fish. And I think one of the things that hurt the steelhead, mostly I really saw it in Canyon Creek where they logged up there, and they did a high lead, and they pulled all the logs down the hill, down it into the creek, and it just plugged up the whole creek.
Yeah, too much silt,
and
too much mud.
It was, so I just hated to see that, and it ruins it for me. So, but anyway, I went to the Fly Club meetings as long as I could. I never missed anything, and but I've kind of come to the end of the road here now. So.
Well, I first joined in '79, and I'd started fly fishing in '71, and I remember seeing you, meeting you then, back then. I remember Al Knutson, enjoyed some conversations with him. He even gave me a few flies, one at a time at dinner. That was fun. I remember Lou Bell. He's actually buried at our church in the columbarium. You know, and I remember other names from way back, Fred Quilliam and W. Tobias and those guys. And I enjoyed them back then, but we didn't have any kids yet. In 1980, had our first son, 1983 our second son, and it just adopted our daughter in '85. It just got to be too much to come to the meeting, so I stopped coming.
Yeah.
I dropped out of the club, but I rejoined 20 years ago, 2003, 20 years ago, and was glad to see that there were still some faces I recognized.
Yeah.
For instance, I recognized you right away and thought, well, Jerry Solie, doggone, he has been around a long time, and so did and do appreciate your positive attitude and your adapting to change and, you know, staying patient and persistent. And for me personally, as I took up carp fishing, I know at the beginning a lot of the guys were laughing, and they were laughing at me, and I was just going, these fish are big, go ahead, laugh all you want.
Yeah.
But you always were very positive and very supportive about that, and I appreciated it. And that's you know, I've put many hundreds of carp in the net since then, many hundreds. So I appreciated that about you. Appreciate certainly your historical perspective, but I especially appreciated your your positive attitude. And I had the chance to talk to you a couple of times at your Mission Beach home, and for an hour or two here before we sat down in front of the camera. You are a walking history book of stories. Oh, you have a lot of memorabilia that is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah,
just. So a couple of questions. What's some of your favorite memorabilia that you have?
My Al Knutson flies. At our meetings, Al would usually give me a fly, and he made a big deal out of it and everything. And I saved every one of them. And Al was so generous to me. I remember one time he won the draw prize was a pair of long underwear, and he gave them to me. So, you know, that's in my old pictures. I enjoy I got a lot.
Oh, you've got a lot.
I got a lot of
Cool
pictures.
photos. Yes.
Yeah, lots of stuff. And you know, what I was kind of different probably than a lot of guys. I remember Dick Panavan was a fishing partner of mine, and but it came on the weekends, and I had to work. I had to work at the funeral home. Usually, and Dick worked at the bank, and he'd come by and want me to go steelhead fishing, and I can't go, Dick. And he wouldn't go, and I never could understand that, because anytime I ever got a chance to go steelhead fishing, I went. And I fished the Thompson River. I'd drive up to Canada, and I'd drive up there on I think I must have took off in the middle of the night, so I'd be there and fishing the next morning. I'd sleep in my truck. Not in the back end. I didn't have a back end. I'd sleep around the front seat. So I'd fish one whole day, and then I'd fish another whole day, and then I'd drive home. And I drove to the Kispiox, went by myself. And I went to a lot of rivers up in Canada by myself. For one thing, I fished really hard. I fished long and hard. There was one guy that probably fished longer and harder than I did, and his name was Sid Pierce. And Sid Pierce goes back a long ways in our club. And he worked for the railroad, and he would save up 50 days.
Wow.
And then he would go to the Thompson, and he would fish 50 days straight. And I'll tell you, he fished hard every day. Doggone this thing. I've got some, God, I've got some great pictures of fish from the Kispiox River. My dad and Al Knudsen and those guys used to go up there and fish the Kispiox. And some of those pictures are really valuable to me because nobody will ever see anything like that again. It's when I think back to the fishery, the evolution of tackle and everything has really changed. I can remember when I started out at the funeral home in this room where we met down below, I would hang my fly line up to put graphite on it. That was my sinking line. I was graphite the heck out of it. And I had bamboo fly rods in. I remember my sister was going with a guy, Jack Lilja, and they had a sports store out south of town, and they took my fly rod and they put all new guides on it, and I had a wonderful fly rod. And gosh, I don't know, my dad, he used bamboo fly rod, and so yeah, everything is a little bit different now.
It's a lot different, that's for sure. I think it's different even in the last 10 to 15 years, because I remember transitioning from, I had I think 3 cane rods, and I've sold them all, but had a lot of fiberglass rods.
Yeah.
And then transitioning to graphite, 2-piece graphite rods. And then when the ferrule technology improved, I remember basically transitioning everything to 4-piece rods, and I gave a lot of 2-piece rods to MWR, Morale, Welfare and Recreation up at Navy Base, and I also donated a bunch of them to Project Healing Waters. And I was just thinking about this the other day when I was assembling a 4-piece rod to go carp fishing. I thought, wow, just the difference, how light the rod is, and the difference in the ferrule technology, and the reel, and the lines, everything. And thought, I want to ask Jerry some of what he remembers, and he already answered the question. What do you remember that's
I remember graphiting my line.
And you put floating on it too to keep
it
out too.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I tell you, at this stage of the game now, I feel like I've kind of wore out. But I gotta say one thing. I sure had a fun time fishing, and I fished hard, and I don't have one thing left on my bucket list.
Good for you. I love hearing that. I love hearing that.
I think I pretty much covered it all. You know, I loved the outdoors, and when I got out of the funeral business, I took off, and I got my fishing buddy went with me, and we flew to Alaska, and I started commercial fishing up there. Actually, I even got a chance to fish for Tony Sarp at the Katmai Lodge, and biggest lodge in Alaska at the time. I just really had a lot of fun doing that. That was more fun. Of course, he never paid me because I don't think he ever paid anybody anything. But
you just had a good time.
But I had a good time.
I remember your stories from years ago about hunting trips, and then repeating some of them before we sat down for the camera. And I remember you telling me how you would, and you were saying some of this with fishing, how you'd go out for a week at a time by yourself with your bow. And I remember thinking, this guy's a warrior. He's a warrior. Jeez, he's out there alone and he's focused and persistent and yeah, those I loved hearing those stories. So
Well, I was one thing I didn't fish with too many people. I mean, I fished a little bit with Padawan, but you know, I always figured when I fished by myself, there was no time limit. I could come and go whenever I want, and I might want to fish till dark, you know. and I think I did probably more exploring than a lot of fishermen do.
from your stories,
Yeah.
it's really, I mean, even just sitting here now with you, the stories I've heard you tell before, you've really done a lot of exploring.
That's the most fun. Maybe try to catch something where nobody else has been fishing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's very cool to hear you say, there's nothing left in your bucket list. I've done what I wanted to do. I've had a good life.
You know, I am so far ahead of everybody else as far as steelhead that I've caught that I don't even, you know, it's just, it meant a lot to me that, you know, gosh, it was, yeah, I fished hard, long, enjoyed it. A lot of good memories.
I remember from the club when I rejoined, Jerry Larson.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed my conversations with him, and when he was not doing well, I visited him in the hospital and visited him at his apartment, and I enjoyed listening to his stories, and I remember him talking about, the Toutle,
Yeah.
going down to the Toutle River, and he told me that, I don't know if am I remembering this detail wrong? He told me he won a 5-weight one night at the club, and he would steelhead with that 5-weight.
Oh yeah.
That, I remember that correctly?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I liked his fly. What was the name of that one?
Well, his fly,
Lars something he called it.
his fly was made with goat hair, and I supplied the goat hair
Oh, okay.
because I killed several goats back in the day, and it had to be the Rocky Mountain goat hair.
What did he call that fly? Lars Special or
I
something?
don't know, but I got a couple of them, and all of those flies, the flies that I have from Ed Nevins and Al Knutson, and I got flies from Jerry Larson. They're all very precious to me.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand. So, there are other things you want to say that you remember, or can I kind of change the direction?
No, go ahead, yeah.
You've said here while we're on camera, and you've said before while we were visiting, and I've heard you say other times too, you know, I've had a good life.
Yeah.
I've had a good life, and I just now you said, you know, I love that there's nothing left in my bucket list.
No.
Yeah, it's all checked off. So, sometimes my wife Kate and I will talk about getting to the bridge, crossing the bridge to the next life, you know, and so you're probably getting close to the bridge.
I think about that, and of course I am. What I have wrong with me now is progressive. It's not getting any better, so of course I have to think that way. But I'm really not letting it bother me too much because I'm just thinking of it as another adventure.
Wow. Okay, what do you think? What do you think it will be like? Do you think you will see and be able to know people that you knew? Will you be able to see Padawan? Will you be able to see your parents and siblings and kids you grew up with? You
know, this might seem weird, but my dogs, my dogs that I've had in my life.
that's who you want to see. I hope you do.
Yeah. Had a great wife too, though.
What was her name?
Diane.
Diana.
Yeah.
I met Diane, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah, at your Mission Beach home.
She was great, yeah. Diana was great, gave me a lot, but God, you can't imagine what the dogs were to me.
Sounds like a lot.
So I'm gonna get over that. Yeah. No, that's true.
Do you pray, Jerry?
Yeah, I guess I sort of do. You know, it's kind of more. Yeah, I pray for. You know, I would like to stick around a little longer, see what happens. I worry about him, you know, when I'm gone. Yeah, I've had some great dogs, a great wife, and a great life. And can't be anything less than happy about that.
It's a good way to
Life,
come down the stretch.
life is good. I'm glad I did have I had a good long life anyway.
I think you've answered this, but I'll just try another question here. But what do you visualize, or what do you say when you pray, or maybe just not so much? You don't really pray very much, or?
No, you know, I really think, you know, I haven't been going to church very good because I haven't not driving now and everything. And then of course, when it came deer hunting season, I was up in my tree, and I really think on the time that I spend, a lot of times I would spend a whole day in a tree. If I thought I might have a chance at that big buck by staying there all day, I'd stay there all day. And I think that's when I kind of do what's the equivalent to pray. I think I'm probably closer to God then than I am at any other time.
When I am fishing alone, I understand.
Yeah.
I'm feeling you. I understand what you say.
The same thing fishing, yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to go out and go, God, you've got it all yourself, you know, and it's a beautiful day. It's a reverent thing.
Very much so. Very much so.
I think it is. Yeah.
I always, when I go, especially when I'm alone, I always thank my dad for taking me so many years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, God, I think about my dad. You know, he was so great. You know, he took me, and you know, of course, I got a son. I hope, I hope he remembers some of the things we got to do. But we did a lot of fishing when he was pretty young. Yeah, he got to do a lot. But it was fun for me too. So I've got a great fishing partner, Jerry Lang, and he ended up my fishing partner up in Alaska, commercial fishing. And he and I were hunting and fishing partners for 80 years.
Wow.
80 years ago, we were shooting rabbits and stuff together. Yeah, and he was here yesterday. So anyway, God, and you know, I wanted to go fishing up in Alaska, commercial fishing, And how could I be so lucky? I mentioned it to Jerry Lang. I says, you know, I think we ought to fly your airplane to Alaska and go fishing. And we did.
And he said, okay.
Yep, he said, okay.
And you did.
He said, yeah, it's just like I said, you know, Jerry, we're gonna go, you're gonna be ready tomorrow at my house, and we're going to Saskatchewan. I should go deer hunting. He was there. I mean, yeah, I can go down. Unbelievable.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
And you know, but he's a guy who's never been in a church in his life, I don't think, but you know, he was the most honest, best person I've ever known. Yeah, he's a super guy. Yeah. Lucky to have him for a partner all those years.
Yeah.
You've been fun to fish with too.
Well, thank you. I am fun to fish with. I do enjoy fishing with other people, but I'm hearing you when you talk about
Yeah.
the solitude. Sometimes I just want the solitude.
Yeah. That I guess I really need that sometime.
Yeah.
I think the funeral business was kind of. When I was in that, I just wanted to get away and not be around anybody for a while.
It was challenging
Yeah, it was.
running the business or emotionally with
Yeah, emotionally.
Yeah, I bet it
emotionally.
was.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. Really tough. Yeah, didn't like it. You know, buried a lot of my dad's old friends and yeah, no, tough business. I didn't like it. Yeah. So I don't. You probably can't see my dog here, but my.
No, can't see him in
24 hours a day, that dog lays right here.
I can't see him. We can't see him in the video.
So, yeah. I just, you know, when I was young, God, I was lucky to have been, you know, grew up when I did, because, you know, we had Mission Beach. There was the resort docks out there that you could go out there and fish off the docks, and it was just a kid's dream.
Yeah, sounds like it. You showed me some cool pictures.
Yeah, and then you know, and I had a bicycle when I was young, and shoot, I'd take off and, gosh, I'd go down the Lowell down there and shoot rats and stuff. And
Down 52nd, down a low road, down towards the river.
right down the bottom of the hill there where the river turns,
Yeah.
there, where there's a park there. Now that used to be a dump. I used to shoot rats there.
Okay.
God, it was great. Yeah, it was just great. And nobody thought a thing about me riding my bicycle up Colby with a shotgun or a 22 on the handlebars. Nobody thought a thing about it.
Times were different.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, there isn't just, you know, a person doesn't have to fish trout, or that guy doesn't have to fish salmon. There's other things. There's bass out there, and there's carp out there, and they can be just as much fun as anything else.
Or more fun.
Yeah, more fun, and probably even more challenging.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
That's my favorite freshwater fish.
Anyway,
But I know. Go ahead. Excuse me.
It doesn't have to be a rainbow trout.
I know before we turned the camera on, you said how much you enjoyed fly fishing for bass, and yeah. So.
Yeah, fly fishing for bass is a lot of fun. I enjoy the heck out of it, and you can get away and have it all yourself, and yeah, it's hard to beat.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Are there other things you would want to say about the club, or about life, or about the next life? Or-
Gosh, I don't know, you know, Jim, as soon as you leave, I'll probably think of all kinds of things.
Well, then I'll come back again.
Yeah, then you come back again. No, it's true. I just, you know, there's only room for so much up in my head. I can't. And no, I can't. I get going on some of these stories. I love to embellish a story a little bit, you know. Sometimes.
Oh, Jerry, you don't embellish your story. You didn't say that. You didn't say that.
Sometimes a little bit. No, but yeah, but Jerry Larson, you know, he was the one. Oh God, he could tell stories and everything. He just seemed to be so doggone much. He's such a fun guy. I remember at one of our auctions, he brought an outboard motor one time, and he was telling everybody all about this outboard motor. And then he said, you know, and one time I almost got it started.
I wasn't there.
But that was typical. That was typical Jerry, and of course, Jerry and I, we were around. Jerry was a carpenter, and my family were all builders, and I was around that too. So Jerry and I, we would always kid each other. Whenever we'd see each other, we'd say, "Hi, Jerry," because the people we were around, they didn't say Jerry. We were Jerry.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's Jack Johnson was another storyteller we had in the fly club that was really interesting. You know, there was just a lot of good guys in the fly club, and I've been fortunate that I got to. If the guy wasn't in the fly club, I wouldn't know him.
Yeah.
So.
In the 20 years since I've been back, there's been a lot of turnover. New members, you know, some have died.
Yeah.
You know, I think 3 died in the last couple of years.
Huh.
And some stuff coming, and there's new members that come, and my favorite thing about the meetings is the fishing reports. I like going to fishing reports and just sitting and yakking with guys about fishing. I mean, even if there's no program, I'm just happy to yak with guys.
Yeah, don't need a program. Just visit. No, that's what I like to do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to visit on camera, and all the time we spent beforehand, and seeing a lot of your memorabilia. And next time I'll come earlier and have pizza.
You come early and stay later, and we'll get it all covered.
Okay. Thanks so much, Jerry.
You bet. Yeah.
I don't want to step on you.